Okay, well, good morning, everybody. We're so glad to see all your smiling faces. Not a whole lot of us this morning, but we're glad for all of you that did come. I think everybody's preparing for spring break and a little nervous maybe, but we're going to survive. We're going to be successful this year. I want to thank Mark for having us. He has to get up very early to be here. I'm not sure what time he normally gets up, but we're glad that you bring us in here and let us do this. And I want to thank Carla for the little treats that she makes every time, individually wrapped. Very nice. I want to thank you again for coming. The Coffee and Conversation is put on by the Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee, and we're hoping to have at least one more before summer. So watch your calendars and your emails for that. Before we start and I introduce our speaker, I just wanted to go over a few things and let you know how hard the Chamber of Commerce is working for you, our members. I have to tell you first that we receive many calls every day. Folks asking for information about the community, about businesses, and I can promise you that we refer and recommend our members. That is our chamber, and so we always do that. I have to tell you, just so you know how hard we work, we get some unusual calls, believe it or not. In fact, day before yesterday, Beverly answered the phone, and it was a very sweet elderly woman who had just gotten her COVID vaccine. And she was having issues with diarrhea and throwing up, and her head hurt. And so she asked Beverly, do you think I should go and get tested for COVID?
That's so funny.
Well, Beverly, of course, did not give her a recommendation for that, other than that she should go and see her doctor. But Diana will get a call. What will the temperature be at noon on August 21st, 2023? I'm not kidding you. Are we going to have a hurricane this summer? Of course, we all worry about that. But I want you to know we do get some unusual calls, and we are always polite and courteous. One of the other things that your chamber is doing, and if you have not been to our office, please come. We are in the visitor center, the old visitor center, and we get hundreds of people each week that come in there. And everything that is in that visitor center is our memberships, flyers and cards. We only focus on our members. So we really promote you as a member. Our website gets thousands of hits. People go to our website for information. Diana is our website guru, and she keeps it up to date constantly. Our Facebook page, our emails that we send out. I know sometimes, we see a chamber email and we might not open it, but open it, because there's always good information in there for you. Did you know that hotels and condos that have swimming pools have to have certified pool operators? You can't just hire a guy to come clean your pool. Well, the chamber offers that. In fact, we're doing a 2-day class this week. This one is in Spanish, to get these people certified. And that helps our hotels and our condo owners to be able to come to the chamber and send their people. Did you know that in Texas, and the city, and I know Mark knows this, any of your food handlers or managers have to be certified in food safety. The Chamber of Commerce provides that. We'll be doing classes in May. And so that helps all of our restaurant members and non-members. We do allow non-members to come. And our food service industry. So we are doing a lot for you. And every time we have one of these, and we're just going to kind of go over some of the things that we do. And you are paid members of the Chamber. If you're not, well, I hope you will be by the end of the day. But as a paid member, it would be silly to not take advantage of the things that the Chamber is doing. And there are a lot of things. So keep that in mind. If you don't know what all we offer and what we can help you with, then come and visit us or give me a call. We'd love to have you come in the office and we'll sit down and go over it all with you. So I hope you will do that. And like I said, if you're not a member, anyone listening on there, we need you in our membership. We are a membership-driven organization. And so we are here to serve and promote our memberships as well as our whole community. So I want to introduce Wendy Knight. Poor Wendy. You know, people use the term baptism by fire. Wendy had a baptism by turtles. I'm sure when she came here, she had no idea what she was going to be faced with shortly after starting. So Wendy joined Sea Turtle in 2020, and she brings 25 years. I'm so intimidated by this, let me tell you. 25 years of corporate experience as an executive in the insurance and financial services market. She specializes in acquisitions, sales, revenue building, marketing, and operational execution. She's the former Chief Operating Officer and Vice President, and she brings a new level of depth and structure to the organization in Sea Turtle Inc. as they move forward in their growth and expansion. Wendy and her wonderful husband, Mark, moved here in 2016, and they are both actively involved in the community and government, and we are so happy to have you, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Notice in that description where I've been before this, it did not mention turtles in any way. So we'll talk about why that is at another conversation, but I'm excited to be here. When Alita reached out and asked if Sea Turtle Inc. would come and speak today, I thought, well, of course. I mean, we've had nothing going on for the last month, so I had nothing but free time. But no, this is the perfect time, I think, to engage with the Chamber and talk about the partnership between Sea Turtle Inc. and the city, and what we're trying to do to grow South Padre Island as a destination for families and for educational tourism, and what we can do here on an island from a marketing standpoint. So I'll take you back to October. Alita mentioned that my husband Mark and I moved here a little more than 4 years ago. I had the opportunity to have some ownership in an insurance company that we were preparing to sell, and instead of living in Brownsville, I thought, why not live on the beach? It seemed like the logical decision, so we moved to South Padre Island. And after selling the acquisition and leaving the market with that insurance company, I was looking for something else to do, and Jeff George, after 28 years of dedicated service, was ready to retire. So I thought it was a good opportunity to take corporate experience and structure and apply it to the nonprofit world, and to try to grow things and build something more expansive than what we have now. Sea Turtle Inc. is an organization that was built really off of just pure grit and passion. I know a lot of you have reached out to me since I've been here and knew Isla personally, and you can attest to that. Her whole concept was to find people that care and know what matters and have them invest in something outside of themselves. And I think she would be exceptionally proud of how we weathered what I think was the hardest 8-9 days in the history of the organization. So we saw this storm coming. We prepare for cold stuns every year. The National Salvage Training Network has some of the best meteorologists. We knew it was going to be bigger than the norm. I would never have taken a bet that it was going to result in more than 5,300 turtles in the span of about 10 days. It's just not something you ever think could really happen. So as they started to pour in, and we started to put them in the beautiful education facility that hasn't been open for 3 years now, and we got close to 600 turtles there, it became evident that we were going to have a significant turtle problem very quickly. And San Juan and I, San Juan is here, she runs our marketing department at Sea Turtle Inc., and we're going to talk about that while I'm here. We sat down and we talked about what we had done before. As an organization before, the Coastal Studies Lab is here, of course, the Gladys Porter Zoo is here, but looking at those opportunities, there's windshield time involved with that. So Sea Turtle Inc. is a scrappy organization. There's not a whole lot of us that are on the payroll. And taking time from the doctors and the vets and the rehab specialists to be in the car, driving back and forth, that windshield time, I was very worried about what that was going to mean. And what was going to happen if we kept getting the volume of turtles that we were seeing. So as we're having that discussion and we look over about 600 feet and we see the beautiful Convention and Visitors Bureau, we called Ed. And I said, we have a crazy idea. What if we put turtles in the convention center? And ironically, without really thinking it through, I think he said yes just out of niceness, and then we had to go, how are we going to make this work? And we did. And you fast forward about 8 days, and there were almost 5,000, a little under 5,000 turtles in the convention center, and thousands of volunteers that responded and executed on what is the largest Cold Stone event in recorded U.S. history. And a lot of things came out of that. Obviously, a Cold Stone event is not something we ever want to see at this scale. The consequences of the Cold Stone event, had we not had, if all the dominoes had not fallen the way that they did, if the Convention and Visitors Bureau had not agreed to partner with us, if the volunteers had sat down at home and wallowed in the fact that they had no power, and the grocery stores were running out of food and couldn't get gas at the gas stations anymore, and they couldn't go home and take a shower at the end of the night, and they had to throw away the clothes they were wearing for the 8 days that they were, because they couldn't wash those either. If all of those things had not come into play and fallen exactly where they did, the size of this Cold Stone event could have wiped out years worth of the legacy of Iowa and sea turtling. The number of turtles rescued in this event surpasses any event in U.S. history, and the combined totals of the entire history of Sea Turtle Inc. since its foundation in 1977. So, and I do think it's a testament. And that's where you see the conversation start to change from Sea Turtle Inc. and what Sea Turtle Inc. does, and it changes to Sea Turtle Inc. is able to do what it does because it's located where it's located. And I hope that you saw as the media started to pick up. And one of the reasons that I came to Sea Turtle Inc. was to start looking at the new generation of marketing and media. And how do you use today's channels to grow revenue and the mission statement, and how to grow education and how to reach people in a way that does not involve them standing inside of your brick and mortar building. So San Juan and I had worked hard since October on building the basis of that through our social media, through media contacts, through relationships from my past and from hers. We did not expect that it was going to be tested so quickly, but it survived, and I'm proud of how it did. But using that method of drawing people in, you know, up until this point, a lot of the mission of Sea Turtle Inc. has involved you standing in our building. Because if you're standing in our building and you see the turtles in the hospital, and you see the resident turtles and how long they've lived happy and healthy lives in the organization, you reach people. They leave feeling like they could contribute. You know, we want a person to leave our education facility and go, I'm going to pick up 5 pieces of trash every time I'm on the beach. That's all you have to do. You can own one meaningful change in your own behavior and have a significant consequence in a positive way to these species and others that share the beach with them. And we wanted to take that passion and that grit and get it to people without them standing in our facility. And 2 things will happen. That will engage them to action, which is the best possible output. So an action meaning they could give money, they could volunteer, they could engage with another nonprofit, doesn't matter, as long as it drives action, behavior of some kind. And the second output of that could be they want to come here and see what's going on. So as we started, really that first night, the power went off at 3 a.m. on Valentine's Day. And I get a call at 3 a.m. from the security company that says, hey, something's up, you don't have any power. So I live in a condo, so I got up and got dressed and opened the door and went, oh my God. And it was totally dark, the whole island was dark. Never seen anything like it in my whole life. So being 3 in the morning, I walked to the elevator and pushed the button. And I stood there for a long time, longer than I'm embarrassed at how long I stood there, before I realized it was not coming. So I went to the stairs, and 8 floors later, I'm standing in the parking lot. in my car and I drove up to the gate. And I waited. Nothing happened then either. So, interesting tidbit for you if you take nothing away from this. If you get out in front of one of those gates and shake it really hard, that's going to go pop open. And it did. And I drove up to see Turtle Lake. And by that time, we had a couple of hundred turtles already. And that's when I think we knew this was going to be something people talk about for a really long time. And what I think came out of this beyond anything else, that moment is when people outside, South Padre Island has always cared about sea turtles. I think this organization and this community has always taken the fact that we share the beaches with an endangered species seriously. I think people know it, they look at it, they see it, and I think visitors find out about it. And I think we do a good job as a community communicating that. That morning at 3 a.m. was when I knew there was the possibility that the world would care. And if you fast forward 8 days and 84 interviews later, in 14 countries, in 18 languages, there are people everywhere talking about South Padre Island. And the real story here is the turtles got their attention. But what kept it in the front of people's mind was the realization that the people that were helping us till 2 and 3 in the morning every morning were going home to a house with no power, with no electricity, with no water, with no gas. We got to the point where we weren't sure how we were going to go pick them up. And if we didn't have volunteers and visitors, okay, everybody's got a quarter of a gallon of gas. You go to Boca Chica and you just stay there. Don't waste your gas. You stay there, load them up, don't come back to your full. And we started to have to really talk about how we were going to make that happen. I tell people all the time the Convention Bureau and the center down there is a perfect example because Ed could have easily tossed us the keys and went, good luck, we'll talk when it's over. And that's not all that happened either. His staff was there every day, sometimes at night, many times at night. They were helping us logistically. We were talking through, we were doing something no one had ever done before. And with that comes, what do you think the best way to do it is? And troubleshooting and partnerships with businesses. And, there came that day where the great ILU would run out. People now know that turtles, when they're sick, you have to put ILU in their eye or they'll dry out. And I have enough ILU to manage the cold sun in the U.S. for the next 20 years. And I think that's good. We are now in the position to give back. The Brevard Zoo in Florida is having an issue right now. I called their director this morning. What do you need? I have things. People blessed us, and now I have things. Tell me what you need. We'll put a care package out. It'll be out the mail today. That is Isla's legacy. That's what she always wanted. Was not to grow the Sea Turtle Inc., but it's the passion and the drive that makes people invest in Sea Turtle Inc. That was Isla's legacy. And looking outside of yourself and doing things outside of yourself. So now that we've survived, and I use survived loosely, because apparently when you deal with more than 5,300 turtles in about 9 days, the rest of your organization grinds to a complete and total halt. So we stayed closed an extra 5 or 6 days to try to get our life together. I demanded everybody sleep at least 8 hours, and so we did that one day. And then we tried to clean up, which those little suckers are messy. So the cleanup in itself took a long time. And then we sat down at the table and went, okay, what do we do next? How do we make sure that the momentum continues? We were blessed, and I say blessed because it was a total coincidence, that about a week before the Cold Stun event, Sony had engaged with a couple of documentary specialists to use some of their equipment, and the specialists chose Sea Turtle Inc. to do a documentary on. Total coincidence. We met with them about 3 days before the Cold Stun hit, and I said, you know what, I would love to make a plan. We need to build a new hospital. I want to leverage what we're going to talk about to try to get the hospital that has served us so well to actually fulfill the needs we have as an organization. But something's about to happen here that I have no way to plan for, and I don't know where through this process. And yesterday, we posted on social media Sony's release of the first section of what will be a series of documentary releases on Sea Turtle and the Cold Stone. And I hope you go out and look at that and support that, and we are appreciative to Sony for doing that and just the timing of it all working out the way that it did. But what we're doing next, I think, is imagine, what I told the last week, and you saw it. We have CNN and Fox News and the Today Show and USA Today and BBC, and those organizations are still following up, and we're still doing follow-up interviews to try to keep it relevant and talking about coming here, see what we're doing, spend your tourist dollars here. We're more than a spring break college destination. Families can come here. You can teach your children valuable lessons on South Padre Island. And, the message I've sent in this follow-up media programs is we're scrappy.
I mean, look what we did in 8 days, thanks to the community, thanks to people, what they are now talking, thanks to the community,
Thanks to the people that engaged with us.
despite not having the building that we needed in the size that we needed, despite not having the materials and the equipment and a clinic that can help us execute the way we wanted to, despite not having that, we did this anyway. So the message is, imagine what we could do if we had the resources and the facility to execute to the scale we want. So when you think about what you're going to see over the next few years from Cedar Lake, what you're going to see, sorry, that's all right, I'm a loud talker. What you're going to see is an investment in research. So I have asked Dr. Amy Bonta to join us at Cedar Lake. We now have a chief conservation officer who is educated with a PhD in marine science. Her dissertation was specifically about Kemp lilies and the nesting process. And we want to start contributing to research and solutions around Cedar Lake. And we want to bring that research to the islands of South Padre Island. We're going to focus our effort and attention on research, on the new clinic, on raising funds to bring a clinic here. That makes the next generation of conservationists want to be here to learn what we're doing on South Padre Island to protect this species. So it was a whirlwind couple of weeks. Someone told me it was 9 days, but I swear to God it's 3 weeks. It felt like it. But we could not have done it without South Padre Island, without the RGD. We had volunteers showing up at 6 a.m. every morning and staying till 10 at night from McAllen. They just brought their stuff and food and stayed all day. I've never seen a response and passion. Alita mentioned I ran insurance companies for a long time. I used to handle catastrophe management, wildfires. There were thousands and thousands of homes were displaced. And I can still say I have never seen a community response to a tragedy like I saw with this this is an organization, and with any organization comes paperwork. And anytime the government is involved, there's 2 times the paperwork. So there is a piece of paper for every turtle we touched. A normal cold stun event, it takes about a month for that report to come out to give you all the cool numbers you'd like to know the answers to. That's a normal cold stun event. I wouldn't even be able to guess how long it will take for the actual report of this one to come out. So I'm not going to be giving you any specific numbers. You have some generalities, and I'll assume that you can make your assumptions from those. But if you ask questions about type, injury, mortality, total figures, those are the numbers that I'm giving. And they won't be for a long time. But I think that the good message here is the community response, and without a doubt, the more than 2,200 turtles that we released in the ocean that day would not have survived this cold stun if people had not stopped what they were doing to help us. And for that, we're thankful and we're grateful. So tell me what questions you have. I'll be glad to answer. Ed, no, I will not. You're not going to.
No, I just want to say it was amazing. Not only did we save a lot, but there was a lot of hook extractions that were taken out of turtles. They were treated, monofilament, entanglements.
Yep.
So it's a great teaching tool of why we need to keep our oceans clean.
I think you're exactly right. We were able, the education piece of the mission statement has always been a big part of Isla's focus on this organization. And if you ever went to her home in the backyard of her, I've heard many people that go there talk about her standing there holding a turtle, teaching the children that she's talking to what's happening and how and what they can do and when. And this was hands-on teaching that we could not have gotten in any other way. So I believe we have a lot of fishermen out there that are aware of what hook can do. If you don't properly get it out and let us know, they know how to look for gill netting and the consequences that causes for the ocean life here on South Padre Island, not just sea turtles, but every piece of ocean life. Boat strikes. We have lots of boat owners that have seen up close now the consequences of a boat running over the top of the sea turtles. And even people that knew, realizing that in a 4-day time span, you were sharing the bay in the Gulf of Mexico with more than 5,000 turtles. I think people knew they were here, but never the scale of it. So it's hands-on learning that we could not have gotten any other way, for sure. What other questions?
Do you know if the turtles that were released will they take their day off?
So turtles are an interesting little breed. So they come back to where they're born to nest. So it's 100% possible that they're going to come back to nest. So especially if there's counts and times they come here, that's what they do on our beach. Nesting season starts in about 2.5 weeks. So that's very, very possible. Most of them are making their way back to the Lagoon Monterey. That is why we put them out there, is because they go where the food is. So it's not a complicated species. Where food is where they want to be. And they know there's easy pickings in the Lagoon Monterey. So we took them out there to the more than 60-degree water because we know their instincts are going to tell them to go back where they know the food is. And by the time they got down past the jetties and back into, that water was more than 60 degrees and they were fine. So that is what we expected to happen, and that's what you can probably assume. The vast majority of them are back over in the Lagoon Monterey and the water.
Did y'all take the opportunity on some of the larger turtles for research?
Yes.
Tag them so you can take advantage of satellite patterns, movements, behaviors?
So let me answer it in two parts. The normal process in a cold stun is to do what's called a pit tag on a turtle. So I'll be around if there's anything I can do to help you or anything that we can do as a partnership for business owners. I think, one of the things we want to make sure we do is that we draw people into South Padre Island and the businesses and what we have to offer families here. So if you can think of a way we can partner or think of something we can do to help encourage and promote your business, please reach out to me or Shimona. We're very willing to do that. So thank you.
Well, we do appreciate her taking time out of her, you have this. Ed, would you like to share just a little bit, she alluded to, mentioned a few things, but I wanted Ed just to talk about the exposure, for the island.
I know what she was talking about. I was getting calls from Berlin with IBM, it's the largest European news network. In China, was there, New Zealand called, Australia called, it was amazing. And at a certain point, like for 2 days, I was responding to the calls and all, and then I turned it over to the experts, and then they took over. There are things you have to be careful what you say when you're federally funded, because you don't want to jeopardize the funding. So it got to a level, that's why I was sent it over to her, and they took care of it. The earned media value of this is probably over $7 million. We're running a report right now on a thing called Cision. And Cision can tell you how many eyes saw on TV and how many times it was on the radio, and we're actually running that. And we haven't done the report yet because I get Cision alerts